Before we go any further, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon, because without their help, none of this upgraded content that you'd be seeing would be possible. Over on the Patreon, you get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming videos. You also get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Coming up soon, I'm going to be working on talking about other anime that I can't talk about here on YouTube, like say ReZero, Konosuba, and etc. I'm also going to start posting the scripts for video essays, and every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul. We also are going to open up the Patreon only Discord server to YouTube members at the $2 price tier, which also means that members will be seeing their name here alongside the patron. But with that being said, let's get back into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, episode 271. And now that episode 271 is done in the books, woo! I can't believe I'm saying this, but we smoking another pack right now. 2022 is gonna go down as the year of the Boruto packs, because we have had multiple characters die this year, and honestly I'm all for it, man. We smoking that Kai pack right now, and just when you thought that everything was gonna be safe and she was gonna make it out of all this alive, Kai actually ends up dying. And I talked about this in the Patreon Discord server. If they manage to pull this off correctly, when we get to the adaptation of Boruto chapter 58, we're seeing more and more of the reason behind why Kawaki goes off on the rampage that he does, without going into spoilers. But we're seeing why Kawaki's saying the way of doing this ninja stuff, it isn't working. I really think that Jigen's way was better. I think we're seeing the final seeds being planted for this before we get into that code actuation arc that should be starting at the end of this year, and as we go into the code arc in Q1 of 2023. So I'm very interested to see how Kawaki handles this death of Kai, because it happens right in front of him, and this bodes well moving forward into the future of the story. So now you got my initial thoughts out of the way. Let's back things up and get into some of the recap before we get into the actual review itself. So I will say I like the fact that the episode starts off where you have everybody on the island, and right away you see that things are not as they appear to be, because the tracking dog that belongs to that kid from the Inuzuka clan, her dog ends up being caught inside of a bear trap, and so now the dog has gotten an injured leg and it can't walk on its own without assistance. So now you lost the ability to track, and then as the episode begins to progress, you start seeing more and more of how Hana Sensei has been laying the groundwork to not only weaken the defenses of the students in the classroom, but also separate the students, and also give herself cover by planting the story of a shinobi, a rogue shinobi, hiding out on this island. That way when Kai ends up dying, or if any of the students end up getting injured, she's given herself a little bit of cover here. And I will say there were a few times in this where, as Hana's plan begins to start getting into action, like when the food goes missing, there were times where I thought it was cool, but I really would have liked to see something like a shadow clone or something making off with the food before everybody notices it's gone, or you have Hana give a little bit of a throwaway line where it's like, I got rid of the food when we were on the ship. But regardless, though, I did like seeing that, because it gives her the perfect cover, because the students' attention is divided. It seems like everything that can go wrong has continued to go wrong on the trip, and the whole time you got Himawari, she's trying to boost up some morale, saying like, hey, we're academy students, we can get through this. You got Kai's a little bit worried, but at the same time Kai is kind of going along with it. And then you also see more of the brilliance here with the trap, where when they start trying to build the fires in order to get ready to start cooking the food, and they start going on the hunting and gathering stuff, you realize that Kawaki is the only one that's going to be there that's between Hana and Kai, because Batora is nowhere to be found because it's school related activities, so Batora wouldn't be there. I thought that was a nice little bit of setup right there. Hana definitely put some planning into this, and so you have Kawaki explain to Himawari that he's a little bit worried about the things that are going on, because he wants Himawari not to go out into the woods on her own and to be more careful. And we get the revelation from Hana that essentially she still has another mission inside of the village, and if it wasn't for her other mission, she would have killed everybody in the classroom and just gone on with it, but she's still got to be there. But she reveals that she's making her job easier easier by grouping the students in the way that they're doing. That way she can start picking them off, and the way she picks them off is she takes out the surveillance students. So you have Neon with her drone, that's been incapacitated. You have the Inuzuka clan's dog, that one's been taken out because the leg is injured. The girl that's from the Aburame clan, she doesn't have full mastery over insects, so she can't use them over a wide range like Shino. The way that they built up towards Kai's death, it was developed and it was set up very well. Throughout the episode itself, the director did a very good job in building intensity, and it was a very slow build. The pacing, there was no issues with the pacing. Also, when it comes to building up some of the tension, very nice there. The same thing when it comes to the storyboarding, the angles being shown for the episode itself, and the way that you had some of the build up with some of the character expressions where you had like the eyes shaking and wavering. Very nice in that aspect right there. The only issue that I personally have with the episode itself is when you get to when Kai was killed off, that's the one time I do think that an episode that was storyboarded very nice. Up until that point, the storyboarding fell apart at that right there. Like, you can change those scenes around. I don't know if it was a time issue, because a lot of times when you see an episode fall apart or you see animation get a little bit inconsistent, or when you start looking at the characters, the art itself doesn't match up with the character design sheets. A lot of times stuff like that is something you can attribute to time issues. Characters being off character model might be something done intentional depending on what they're doing with the animation, a la Naruto Shippuden. I think episode 166 with Six Tails Naruto versus Pain, a lot of people are complaining about the art, and because a lot of people can't tell the difference between art and animation, a lot of people wrongfully drag that episode. That's one of those episodes where you either use that episode to learn about animation or you stay willfully ignorant. I did a video with King Bullet on his video breaking down the animation, but getting back to this one, the storyboarding, I kind of wonder if this was intentional because they're trying to give themselves a backdoor way to say that Hana couldn't actually kill Kai. If that happens, I'm gonna be a little disappointed, because I do think Kai dying and Kawaki being forced to watch it is something that is going to be big for his character as well as for Himawari's character. And given where we're headed towards all these subtle signs building up to Boruto chapter 58 being adapted, I think that walking this one back would do more damage than good. Like, it was right there on the table for them, which kind of makes me think this might have been intentional. I really hope that was not the case, but the setup was right there for dramatic tension, and just the way that everything was presented to us at the end of it, maybe we see a different angle at the beginning of next episode. I felt like that was something that was missed for dramatic tension. I really thought all that build up of showing Hana gradually get darker and darker and more evil, that was your climax that was needed going into the finale of the episode itself. Now, another thing that really highlights in this episode as well is as Hana begins to start putting her plan into action, you really see moments where Kawaki, the intelligence, is starting to shape up, but you also see some of the weaknesses with Kawaki as a character. And that goes back to something I said last week in the episode review, which is I said, like, Kawaki, you can tell that his father was a shinobi. He has good shinobi instincts, but he doesn't have the training. And I got quite a few comments by people saying like, yo, like, what are you talking about? He got trained by Jigen. Getting trained in combat and getting trained as a shinobi are two different things. When you look at all the cards that Kawaki was dealt in this episode, if you would have had Boruto, Sarda, or Mitsuki there, they would have put those pieces together quicker. And it's because they've been brought up and they've been trained as ninja, and ninja have been taught to see through the hidden meaning. And with Kawaki, quite a few times throughout this arc, as well as in previous arcs, Kawaki's always been reacting. He realizes what's going on just a little bit too late. And while he has been trained by Naruto, while he has been under Sarda's watch, that can't replace years of being brought up in shinobi culture. And you see in this episode, Kawaki's sharp, he's putting pieces together, but if he would have been given the opportunity to actually grow up in a ninja village and not be tortured and trained by somebody like Jigen, Kawaki might actually be a better shinobi than anybody on Team 7. His instincts are 100% on point here because he's putting pieces together very rapidly, very quickly, without having a lot of intel, and Kawaki seeing behind the deceptions. It's just that, again, he's not doing it as fast as he could have, given his high intelligence, if he would have had longer training under somebody as accomplished as Naruto, or even just a standard Jonin. So you're seeing right here, like, Kawaki has the makings of a brilliant ninja under the right circumstances, because he's the one that's able to look at the surveillance drone footage and say, wait a second, there was a flower petal in the upper right hand corner seconds before the drone goes missing, and Kawaki's looking at it, and before Kai even goes off with Hana, he's already suspicious of Hana. So I did like seeing that. That was a nice build up there, and Kawaki's intelligence and his instincts being on display in this episode really just further highlights the tragedy of the character, because you can't help but look at all this and think, what if? And it's so frustrating as a viewer, because you already know where his character ends up, but that's the brilliance of a flash forward sequence though. But getting back to the episode itself though, Kawaki is poking holes and stuff slowly over time, and given the circumstances, you could say, hey, that's actually pretty quick, but as we saw in this episode, being a few seconds too slow on the uptake is the difference between life or death. And for somebody like Kawaki, this is gonna sting, because this is the second person that he's been guarding that's been killed under his watch. And it really makes you wonder if Kawaki doesn't think back to what Boro told him, where he told him that he had gotten less sharp being under Konoha. Because if Kawaki hadn't taken that time to try and save Himawari, you could argue he could have gotten to Hana faster, because he wasn't worrying about Himawari, and Kawaki could have actually saved Kai's life. This was a nice idea from a scripting standpoint. Whoever wrote the episode script for this, that was a nice decision there. Now, another thing of note here that really stands out is that when Kai starts going off into the forest with Hana Sensei after Kawaki has his conversation with her, and you start getting the telltale signs she's gonna die, whoever wrote the script did a good job just cashing in on all the buildup you had with Kai as a character, because some of the stuff that I've seen online is Kai's actually a character that a lot of people who are actually watching the arc like. So this was a good buildup and payoff. You have a moment where when Kai starts looking out into the forest, it's the small details where you see the little white spot in her eyes begin to start moving up and down, showing the emotion flittering inside the eyes. I thought that that was a nice touch there. The same thing when it comes to the sequence where you have all the emotions being conveyed, where Himawari starts breaking down into tears when they confront Hana Sensei, and they're really going at it in terms of the storyboarding and the animation to try and get you emotionally pulled in, to where when Hana does end up killing Kai, it hits you. In my opinion, it's going to come down to how you feel about that ending sequence, whether or not it worked or not. You see in this moment where when Kawaki begins to really start chasing after her, Hana realizes, I ain't beating this dude in a one-on-one fight. Not right now, not under these circumstances, but I'm gonna get in the boy's head. And I'm also gonna use Himawari against him. And you see how she directs some of that attack at Himawari and blows Himawari in a way to where Kawaki has to save Himawari. And those extra seconds of distance she's able to put between herself and Kawaki, it gives the opportunity for her to get on the other side of the bridge and actually deliver the finish and blow on Kai. So I thought that that was nice right there. This is a good setup for Kawaki and Himawari's development. We know where it's going to take Kawaki, but I'm curious to see where it's going to take Himawari. But I mean, overall, this was okay. Great storyboarding by the director. Good job when it comes to some of the sequences that were done in here. You can tell where there were some corrections made on here that really kind of made some of the scenes look better. It's just the ending didn't quite land for me. That's the one area where I look at this and I say that ending, and it's going to come down to whether or not Kai's dead or not, because that ending looks like it was storyboarded in that way on purpose. I don't think that that was a timing issue, but that remains to be seen. When the home media release comes out, we'll be able to see. If they add in like some blood or something like that after the fact, then that means that this was a timing issue. As a reminder, what you're seeing is the broadcast version. What you get on the home media release, a lot of times the Blu-ray cleans up a lot of stuff that people nitpick about because of the broadcast. But if you're watching on Crunchyroll, you're only going to see the broadcast version because the Blu-ray version is not uploaded. I mean, overall, like I said, this was cool. The one thing I would say is that, me personally, Kai's death fell flat in that manner. All of the storyboarding leading us up to that moment, that one scene right there fell apart. But it might just be me. You might have been okay with that. That's actually going to be one of my episode questions. Are you okay with the reveal that you saw on how Kai was killed? And then the second question I have is, do you think this is the final straw that you see that breaks Kawaki's back, that is what gets him in that mentality in Boruto chapter 58 where he clashes with Sarada? Let me know down in the comment section below. But while you think that over, click here to watch my Black Clover chapter 341 review, or click here to watch this video from Naruto Explained.